this really is an operation designed to prepare people for what's coming.
Yep.
I really think that at its
Absolutely.
core, it's an operation. I think it's a group of folks, probably with the leader who's in charge, but a group, and you can, correct me if I'm wrong and totally off base here, but working together with access to top level military stuff and also Donald Trump in a very personal way. And they are putting information out in an operation to engage interests, to engage a grassroots awareness, and ultimately to prepare people for what's going to unfold so that total shock isn't part of the equation. It's just going to be partial shock.
Right. That is what Q has said at the very beginning. This is a program to gradually roll out and uncover things that have been happening for a long time that people are unaware of. And if it isn't brought to light slowly and carefully, they'll either be so shocked they'll go and burn down Washington, D.C., or they'll completely reject the truth. So it has to be done slowly. One of the things that I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
What do you think the relevance is of Trump mentioning the Space Force in every one of his rallies over the last 3 months?
Okay, so my first answer is...
Speaking of unveiling secret government programs slowly.
Okay, so I will say this. I mean, how far do you want me to go here? I mean, because
man, it's your interview.
I will tell you that I work with people, right, that have come out of secret government projects.
Right.
Okay, so they were born prepared. Some of them were sold. Some of them were simply, there are different ways of being brought into these government projects and programmed. The programming often includes torture, torment, drugs. It includes rape, shattering of the mind. They interface it with technologies. They use lights, they use sound, they use all kinds of things. Well, one of the things that many, many people do remember is being taken to certain NASA facilities to be put into, as children, on drugs. The astronaut circle machine, where they just spin them and it's
like a centrifuge or whatever?
Yeah, it's an exercise in anti-gravity, but they had to be put in these things as children. And it's highly traumatizing to go in there as a child on drugs. It's really, really bad. And so what would they use something like that for? Well, a lot of these kids had parts that were prepared for secret space program operations. But what people don't understand about secret space program is that they're using more soul parts that are fragmented out of body in what we've uncovered than physical bodies being sent into space. And it's been a big part of evil agendas connected to the higher powers. One of the crazy things that people don't realize can happen, but is actually being pumped into the public consciousness through movies like Avatar, is that they can take a person's soul essence or piece of it and prepare a body and put that piece of soul in the body and send the body out. We found this to be true in the case of many of the survivors we've worked with. They have parts that are prepared, literally programmed to do secret space operations, pulled out of the body and put in other bodies and sent off in craft or other things. And if their bodies die in space and so forth, they can pull the soul back, and the physical person that was programmed and maybe was $100,000, $1 million project, they don't lose that asset. It gets stranger and stranger, but what we need to understand is that there's been a lot of stuff going on over our heads outside of Earth's atmosphere for a long time. I have reports to me coming back from operations on the moon, on other planets. They've used jump gates to get there. They've used craft and UFO to get there. I mean, this is all going to sound very, very wacky to people, but I have the memories. I have the notes. I have all of this stuff. I mean, and it's like, maybe one person's lying, maybe two persons lying, but when I have 15, 20, 30, 40 people each giving me their own account of these kinds of events from their perspective or the perspective of their brokenness, there comes a point where you say, I've hit a critical mass. This has actually happened. And
Right. I mean,
sure.
I would have said 6 months ago, this is crazy. This is insane. This is the wackiest conspiracy theory I've ever heard of, right? I have been slowly doing my own research, and I've been finding things that are confirming some of the stuff you're talking now. For those people who don't know who Daniel is a Christian minister who primarily does ministry to people who have been through ritual abuse, mind control, and programming. He's been doing this for years. This is what he does. And he and I got connected because I do a lot of healing prayer, and I've developed an interest in healing emotional trauma, and he deals with a lot of people who need healing of emotional trauma. So that's our overlap. He and I have never discussed this before, but as crazy as it sounds, you have a lot of cases of people who are telling you the same things over and over again. And how do you dismiss all those people?
You can't. And here's what happens, right? The more I talk about it, the more people write in. And if they have the opportunity to sit down with me, because it's becoming harder and harder for me to sit down with new people because of the demand. As crazy as it sounds for what I say, I tell you, the demand for help from someone that is educated on these things is vast.
I know, and the number of people trained and equipped to do it is tiny.
It's smaller than it should be.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, this comes a certain point where everyone that has not, had this experience maybe can't just assume that these kinds of things are not part of the equation just because it's not their experience. Because when you have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people coming forward saying, yep, this is what I've been through, you have to just pause and say, okay, am I in my own head, or am I actually basing my conclusions on what's really happening based on a reasonable assessment of what's being reported? The Bible says, out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let all things be established. How about 40? Okay.
Right. What do you do with that?
And the Sacred Space program is really, really interesting. There's a whole lot going on with this. And here's something that people need to realize. In verse 20 of Colossians chapter 1, it says, by the blood of his cross, everything in heaven and earth is brought back to himself, back to its original intent, restored to innocence again. Now that's the Passion Translation. It's a really beautiful English version of the Bible. But in essence, what it's saying is God has a redemptive agenda for the heavens and the earth. So for us to think that the only thing we have to concern ourselves with, or that the enemy would be tampering with, this earth stuff that below the cloud line, is kind of short-sighted. That's the point.
I would agree. I would agree.
So there's definitely stuff going on, Dave, and I think that Trump is hinting at it. And
well, let me share something with you. I had this dream before Trump was elected. I had a lot of dreams, prophetic dreams, where God showed me things before they happened. And this one dream, Mamma Mia, it was August before the election, so 2016. In the dream, I had to make a choice about who I was going to vote for president. And I chose Trump. And I went into this experience where it was like I went into another dimension, like in the future. And I was living in a society where there was no poverty, no lack, no disease. Everybody was living a lavish, blessed lifestyle. I was literally lived in a society where it was like we were living in heaven on earth. And it was a result of voting for Trump. Now, I have had almost 2 years to think about that dream. And the things that Q has been dropping have hinted at the idea that there are cures for diseases that Big Pharma has kept hidden so that they can give us chemotherapy instead of the cure for cancer. They can
Lord.
sell us chemotherapy, keep us sick, make a lot of money off of it, but never heal us. Imagine if Trump, now I've heard Trump, he has called out Big Pharma a number of times and has told them your corruption and your profiteering days are over. Prices are coming down, but that's only the beginning of it. Q dropped this, it was a question for us to look into the mysterious deaths of people who researched holistic and natural remedies. And I found 80 people that had been killed in recent years, unsolved murders, and they're all researchers in healthcare.
I will say this.
And the next day, articles showed up on the internet proclaiming the discovery of a new antibiotic that would essentially cure all of the multi-drug resistant forms of bacteria that we have not been able to cure for the last 20 years. The next day,